Married orc woman is abandoned. A human farmer helps her. Then a shocking visit. Some betrayals don't just break your heart. They leave you freezing to death in the snow. Skornia had always believed that warriors died on battlefields, axes in hand, war cries on their lips, blood painting the ground red and glorious. She never imagined she'd die on her knees in a blizzard, abandoned by the one person who swore to stand beside her until the end. The snow fell like frozen knives. Each flake was a tiny accusation, reminding her that she was alone. Completely, devastatingly alone. Her hands, those same hands that had split shields and broken spears, now clutched a wooden cradle against her swollen belly. The cradle Bolgoth had carved for their child, back when he still looked at her like she mattered. Back before he decided she was a burden too heavy to carry. The wind screamed through the trees, but not as loud as the silence he'd left behind. "You're slowing us down," he'd said. "Just 5 words. 5 words to end 8 years of marriage. 8 years of sleeping back-to-back in war camps, sharing rations when food was scarce, covering each other's blind spots in battle. 8 years erased in 5 words. She'd watched him walk away with the rest of the war band, watched his broad back disappear into the white nothing, waited for him to turn around. He never did. Hargun had glanced back once. Bolgoth's war brother, the only witness to her abandonment. Their eyes met for half a heartbeat. Then he looked away and kept walking. Now Skornia knelt in snow that had already buried her legs past the knees. Her fingers had stopped hurting about an hour ago. That was probably bad. Her teeth had stopped chattering too. Also bad. The baby kicked, hard, like she was angry about the cold, about the abandonment, about being born into a world that didn't want her. "I know," Skornia whispered through cracked lips. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She tried to stand, failed, tried again. Her legs had forgotten how legs worked. The cradle slipped from her numb fingers and landed in the snow. She stared at it, at the careful orcish knotwork Bolgoth had carved into the wood, at the small tusks he'd shaped on each corner for protection, at the blessing to Gromkar, god of hearth and family, burned into the headboard. Gromkar, god of families. What a joke. Skornia laughed. It came out as a cough that tasted like copper. She was going to die here, her and the baby both. They'd freeze into a monument to stupid hope, the kind of hope that made you believe a warrior could also be gentle, that tusks designed for war could carve cradles, that love meant something more than convenience. Her vision blurred. The world tilted sideways, snow pressed against her cheek like a pillow that wanted to suffocate her. Somewhere far away, she heard footsteps crunching through snow. Probably a wolf, or a bear, something that would make the end quicker. She closed her eyes and waited for teeth. Instead, she got words. Jesus Christ. The voice was human, male, shocked. Strong hands touched her shoulder. She tried to pull away, but her body had stopped taking orders from her brain. "No, no, no, stay with me. Stay awake." "Why?" Skornia wanted to ask. "What's the point?" But words were too expensive. She'd spent them all on Bolgoth, begging him not to leave. The hands lifted her. She should fight. Humans were the enemy, had been the enemy for 3 generations. But fighting required energy she didn't have and conviction she'd lost somewhere between the 5th and 6th hour of waiting for Bolgoth to come back. "I've got you. I've got you." Warmth. There was warmth suddenly. A barn, hay, the smell of horses and old wood and lamp oil. The human set her down on something soft. His face swam into focus, young, pale, terrified. He had brown hair that stuck up in all directions and eyes the color of mud in spring. "You're—" He swallowed hard. "You're pregnant." Skornia managed to nod. "Who did this to you?" "Everyone. No one. Her husband. Herself for being weak enough to love someone who could walk away." She tried to answer. Darkness answered instead, pulling her down into nothing. Walter Greystone stood over the orc woman and tried to remember how to breathe. 3 years. It had been 3 years since orcs killed his wife and daughter. 3 years since he'd buried what was left of them in the small cemetery behind the village church. 3 years of waking up angry and going to sleep angrier. And now there was an orc in his barn. A pregnant orc. A dying pregnant orc. The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to walk away. Let nature take its course. Go back to bed and pretend he never saw her. But Walter had spent 3 years doing smart, safe things. It hadn't brought his family back. It hadn't made the anger go away. It hadn't made him feel anything except empty. He looked at her swollen belly, at her hands still reaching toward a wooden cradle in the snow where he'd found her, at her face, younger than he expected, with scars that told stories he'd never hear. She was someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's daughter, just like Sarah had been, just like little Emma had been. "Damn it," Walter muttered. He ran back into the snow, grabbed the cradle and brought it inside, set it beside her. Her fingers found it immediately, even unconscious, and curled around the edge. Then he did the thing that would get him killed or exiled or both. He covered her with every blanket he owned, stoked the fire until the barn glowed orange, and started heating water. He was going to save her life. God help him. But he was going to try. Consciousness returned in pieces. First, warmth, real warmth, the kind that hurt as it seeped back into frozen flesh. Second, softness beneath her. Hay, but covered with something woven. Blankets, human blankets. Third, the smell of soup, actual food. When had she last eaten? 2 days ago? 3? Skornia's eyes opened slowly. A wooden ceiling, beams held together with iron nails. Human construction, everything precise and measured, nothing like the sprawling organic chaos of orc settlements. She turned her head. The human man sat on a stool 3 feet away, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Not quite fear, not quite anger, something in between. "You're awake," he said. She tested her voice. "Why? Why are you awake? Why didn't you?" She gestured vaguely. "Let me die." He was quiet for a long time. "I thought about it. Honest, at least. You should have. Probably." He stood up, ladled soup from a pot over the fire, brought it to her. "Can you sit up?" Every muscle in her body voted no. She sat up anyway. The soup was thin, mostly broth with a few chunks of carrot and potato floating in it. The kind of soup poor people made when winter was long and supplies were short. He handed it to her with a wooden spoon. Skornia stared at it. "You're feeding me." "Yes. I'm orc. I noticed. My people killed your people." "Yes. Your people killed my people." "Also yes." She met his eyes, those strange brown human eyes that looked almost warm in the firelight. "So why?" Walter sat back down on his stool. For a while the only sound was the fire crackling and wind howling outside. "My wife's name was Sarah," he said finally. "My daughter's name was Emma. Emma was 4. She liked picking flowers. Sarah liked singing. They both hated turnips." Skornia said nothing. She knew where this story was going. Everyone's story went the same way these days. 3 years ago, a raiding party came through. They burned half the village. Killed. He stopped. Started again. Emma was carrying flowers when they found her. Sarah was holding her. "I'm sorry. Are you?" "Yes." He studied her face. "Yeah, I think you actually are." The soup was cooling in her hands. She drank it. It tasted like salt and survival. "I spent 3 years hating every orc that ever lived." Walter continued. "Spent 3 years wishing I'd been there, wishing I could have fought, wishing I could have died instead of them. And now? Now I found a pregnant orc woman freezing to death in the snow, and I realized," he rubbed his face with both hands, "I realized that hate is exhausting, and if I left you to die, I'd have to add one more thing to the list of nightmares that keeps me awake." Skornia finished the soup, set the bowl down carefully. "The baby's father abandoned me. I figured. Left me to die. Why? Slowing down the war band. Pregnancy makes you weak. Useless." The words tasted worse than the cold had. He was right. He was wrong. She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You don't know me." "No, but I know what it looks like when someone gives up. And you're still holding that cradle." Walter nodded toward her hands. She hadn't realized she'd grabbed it again. "People who've given up don't carry hope through blizzards." Skornia looked at the cradle, at the knotwork, at the blessing. "This is the only gentle thing he ever made," she whispered. "I couldn't leave it. What's it say? The writing. It's a blessing to Gromkar, god of hearth and family." Her laugh was hollow. God of irony, apparently. Walter was quiet for a moment. "You believe in ironic gods? I believe in gods who laugh at us. That's the only way any of this makes sense." "Fair." They sat in comfortable, uncomfortable silence. The wind rattled the barn walls. Snow hissed against the roof. Finally, Skornia asked the question that had been burning in her throat. How long are you going to let me stay? Until the storm passes. And then? And then? Walter stood up, added another log to the fire. And then we figure it out. Not a promise, not a solution. But for now, in a warm barn with soup in her belly and a human who looked at her like she was a person instead of a monster, it was enough. 3 days passed. The storm kept screaming. Scornia learned that Walter talked to his animals. Not baby talk, actual conversations. He'd ask the horses about their day. He'd tell the chickens gossip. He apologized to the cow when he took her milk. She has a name, he explained when he caught Scornia watching. Betsy, been in my family for 6 years. Feels wrong not to acknowledge her. Scornia, who'd grown up in war camps where animals were food or transportation and nothing more, didn't know what to say to that. She learned that Walter was a terrible cook who somehow made edible food anyway through sheer stubbornness. She learned he sang off-key while working. She learned he had nightmares that woke him up gasping, same as she did. She learned that loss looked the same in every language. On the 4th day she tried to stand. Her legs had other plans. Careful! Walter caught her before she hit the ground. His hands were rough from farm work, gentle in the way he steadied her. I need to move, she growled. I'm not weak. You're recovering from nearly freezing to death. Different thing. Same thing. It's really not. He helped her to the barn door, opened it. The storm had finally died. Snow lay in drifts taller than Walter, glittering under a sun that gave light but no warmth. Pretty? Scornia admitted grudgingly. Deadly. That too. They stood in the doorway, watching the world be beautiful and terrible. The baby kicked. Scornia put a hand on her belly. How much longer? Walter asked. Month. Maybe less. And then what? You tell me. This is your barn. Walter was quiet for a long time. I haven't thought that far ahead. You should. Your neighbors will notice eventually. Yeah. He sighed. Yeah, they will. As if summoned by prophecy, a voice called from beyond the snow. Walter? Walter Greystone, you alive in there? Walter's whole body tensed. That's Abbot Finnegan. The priest. Want me to hide? Can you move fast enough to hide? No. Then I guess we're doing this. He stepped out into the snow. Scornia stayed in the doorway, half hidden in shadow. Abbot Finnegan was the kind of old that came with authority. White beard, straight back, eyes that saw too much. He was carrying a basket covered with cloth. Walter, my boy. Nell was worried when she didn't see smoke from your chimney for 3 days. He squinted at Walter. You look exhausted. Have you been eating? I'm fine, Abbot. You're a terrible liar. Always have been. The old man's eyes moved past Walter, found Scornia in the doorway, stopped, widened. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Abbot Finnegan did something Scornia didn't expect. He hummed. Off-key, nervous but recognizable. A church hymn. His tell, Walter had mentioned once. The priest hummed when he was processing something difficult. That, Abbot said slowly, is an orc. Yes. In your barn. Also yes. Pregnant, from the looks of it. You're very observant today, Abbot. The old priest's eyes moved between Walter and Scornia. The humming got louder. Finally, he sighed. Are you going to tell me why there's a pregnant orc in your barn? Or should I just assume you've lost your mind? Found her in the storm. She was dying. And you saved her. Yes. The same you who swore to hate every orc that drew breath after Sarah and Emma. Walter's jaw clenched. The same me who realized hate doesn't bring people back. Abbot was quiet. Then he walked forward, right past Walter, up to the barn door. He looked at Scornia. Really looked, taking in the scars, the exhaustion, the hand protectively cradling her belly. What's your name, child? Nobody had called her child in a decade. Scornia blinked. Scornia. I'm Abbot Finnegan. I serve the church in Millbrook. He gestured to the basket. I brought bread and cheese. Nell baked, so it's actually good. Will you eat with us? It was so unexpected, so bizarrely normal, that Scornia just nodded. They ate in the barn. Abbot sat on a hay bale, broke bread with his hands, and shared it with an orc woman and a traumatized farmer. He asked Scornia questions, careful, gentle questions. Where was she from? How long had she been traveling? Who was the father? She answered some, deflected others. Abbot didn't push. When the cheese was gone and the bread reduced to crumbs, the old priest stood up. Walter, he said, I need to tell the village. I know. Some of them will be angry. I know that too. They might demand you send her away. They can demand all they want. Abbott smiled slightly. Good man. He turned to Scornia. You're safe here, as long as I can help it. But understand, there are people in Millbrook who lost family to your kind. Their grief is real. Their fear is real. I understand grief, Scornia said quietly. I understand fear. Then we'll figure this out together. He nodded to Walter. I'll be back tomorrow. With Nell, probably. She'll want to fuss. After he left, Scornia looked at Walter. You're going to lose everything because of me. Maybe. You should have let me die. Probably. Why didn't you? Walter met her eyes. Because I spent 3 years being the man who lost everything. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life being the man who could have helped and didn't. The baby kicked again. Scornia felt it ripple across her belly. She's active today. She? I think so. The way she fights. Definitely has tusks already from the way it feels. She smiled slightly. Stubborn like her mother. Sounds like a survivor. Has to be. The world isn't kind to half-wanted children. Walter was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that changed everything. What if she was fully wanted? Scornia stared at him. What? You said half-wanted. Her father didn't want her. But you do. That's not half. He added another log to the fire. And for what it's worth, I think any kid brave enough to survive their mother surviving a blizzard deserves a shot at life. Tears burned behind Scornia's eyes. She refused to let them fall. Warriors didn't cry, except she wasn't a warrior anymore. She was just a woman who'd been left to die and somehow ended up here, in a warm barn, with a human who believed her daughter deserved to live. Thank you, she whispered. Walter nodded. Get some rest. You'll need your strength. For what? For meeting Nell tomorrow. She's going to have opinions about everything. Despite herself, Scornia laughed. Nell the widow arrived at dawn carrying enough bread for a small army. She was the kind of middle-aged woman who looked soft until you noticed the steel in her spine and the weapons-grade determination in her eyes. She took one look at Scornia, set down her basket and said, You need vegetables, and probably iron supplements. When's the baby due? A month, Scornia managed. Good. Gives us time to prepare properly. Nell started unpacking her basket. Bread, yes, but also eggs, dried herbs, a jar of honey, and strips of salted pork. I'm Nell. I've buried 3 sons and 1 husband, so I'm immune to shock. Abbott told me about you. I have questions. I'll answer what I can. Good enough. Nell started organizing the food with military efficiency. First, are you safe here? Walter hasn't hurt me. That's not what I asked. Are you safe? Do you feel safe? Scornia thought about it. Yes. Second, do you plan to hurt Walter? No. Third, can I check the baby? I delivered half the children in Millbrook. I know what I'm doing. That surprised her. You'd help me. Nell's hands stopped moving. She looked at Scornia directly. My sons died in the war. 2 to orc blades, 1 to infection after a battle. I know what you are. I know what your people did. Then why? Because I also know what grief does to people. I know what it's like to lose everything and keep breathing anyway. Nell's voice was gentle but firm. And I know that babies, all babies, deserve a chance. Green skin or pink, they didn't choose the world they're born into. Scornia felt something crack in her chest. I was left to die by my own kind. I know. Walter told me. Nell squeezed her hand. But you're not dying. You're here. So let's make sure that baby arrives healthy, yes? The examination was clinical and thorough. Nell's hands were steady, her questions specific. Scornia answered everything, surprised by how normal it felt. Like being tended by the clan mothers back home, before Bolgoth, before the war, before everything turned complicated. Baby's positioned well, Nell announced finally. Heartbeat strong. You're thin, but we'll fix that. You need protein and rest. She started putting supplies away. I'll come back every 3 days, bring more food. Check on you both. Why are you doing this? Nell was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 3 dead sons and a war that took everything. Because if I only show kindness to people who look like me, worship like me, speak like me, then what was the point of all those sermons about loving your neighbor? She smiled sadly. Abbott talks a good game about mercy. Time someone actually practiced it. After Nell left, Scornia sat with Walter by the fire. The cradle rested between them. Your people are different than I thought, she said. Different how? Complicated. Everyone I killed in battle was just the enemy. Simple. Easy to hate. She touched the cradle. But Abbott feeds me. Nell helps me. You saved me. It's harder to hate complicated people. Walter nodded slowly. I spent 3 years hating uncomplicated orcs. The kind that only existed in my head. All violence, no families, no grief, no reason. He looked at her. You're the first orc I've actually talked to. And? And you're annoyingly complicated. She laughed. It felt strange. Good strange. You're annoying too. How? You hum while you work. You apologize to cows. You're nice to me when you shouldn't be. She shook her head. It's exhausting being saved by someone I'm supposed to hate. Tell me about it. They sat in comfortable silence. The baby kicked. Scornia put Walter's hand on her belly without thinking. He froze. That's my daughter, saying hello. He felt the kick. His expression did something complicated. Grief and wonder and pain all mixing together. Emma used to kick like that, he whispered. Sarah would wake me up in the middle of the night, put my hand on her belly. Feel that? She'd say. Our daughter's going to be a fighter. She was right. Yeah. Walter's eyes were wet. Yeah, she was. The moment stretched. His hand stayed on her belly. Another kick came. Then another. She likes you, Scornia said softly. How can you tell? She fights when she's scared. This is different. This is... She searched for words. Curious. Like she's checking if you're safe. And am I? Scornia met his eyes. Yes. Something passed between them. Not love. Too early. Too complicated for that. But understanding. Recognition. Two people broken by the same war. Sitting together while new life moved between them. I'm going to teach her to fight, Scornia said. But also to choose when not to. That's the part no one teaches. Will you teach her about her father? I'll tell her he carved her cradle. That he could be gentle when he wanted. That he was brave in battle. She touched the Orcish knotwork. And I'll tell her he abandoned us. Because she deserves truth, not comfortable lies. What will you tell her about me? That you were a good man who did a hard thing. That you chose kindness when hate was easier. She smiled slightly. That you apologized to cows. Walter laughed. That's what you'll remember. It's the most human thing I've ever seen. 3 weeks passed. Scornia grew stronger. Her belly grew rounder. The baby grew more active. Walter cleared space in the barn, built a proper bed frame from spare lumber. Can't have you sleeping on hay when the baby comes, he said. Nell brought herbs and clean cloth. For the birth, she explained. I've delivered harder babies than this one. Abbott came weekly, bringing food and conversation. He asked about orc culture, genuinely curious, not judging. Scornia found herself telling stories about home, about the singing caves where young orcs learned war chants, about the Festival of Breaking, where warriors broke their weapons and rebuilt them to remember that strength comes from being remade. We're not what you think, she said once. Everyone thinks orcs are just violence. But we're people. Complicated people. I'm beginning to understand that, Abbott replied. But not everyone was understanding. On the 23rd day, trouble arrived. Scornia was outside, carefully, slowly walking circles around the barn to keep her strength up. Walter was chopping wood, normal, peaceful. Then hoofbeats. 4 riders from the village. Scornia recognized the one in front. Tall, broad-shouldered, holding a pitchfork like a weapon. His face was twisted with anger. Walter Greystone, the man bellowed. We need to talk. Now. Walter set down his axe. Afternoon, Davis. What brings you out? Don't play stupid. Everyone knows you're harboring an orc. I'm helping someone who needed help. She's a monster. She's pregnant. I don't care if she's the Virgin Mary herself. Davis pointed the pitchfork at Scornia. My brother died fighting her kind. You dishonor his memory by sheltering her. Walter stepped between them. Your brother died in a war neither side wanted. Don't use his death to justify cruelty. Cruelty! Cruelty! Davis's face went red. I'll show you cruelty when you what? Walter's voice went quiet. Dangerous. When you attack a pregnant woman, murder a baby. Is that the kind of man your brother died protecting? The words hit like physical blows. Davis stumbled back. One of the other riders spoke up. We're not here to hurt anyone. We're here to ask you to make her leave. Can't do that. Can't or won't. Both. She's due any day now. Moving her would kill her and the baby. So we're supposed to just accept having an orc in Millbrook? You're supposed to remember that mercy isn't conditional. Walter's voice was steel-wrapped and calm. And if you can't manage mercy, At least manage basic human decency. Davis spat in the snow. You've gone soft. Betrayed your own people for green skin and tusks. I've chosen to be a human being instead of a monster. That's not betrayal. That's evolution. The riders left, but their anger hung in the air like smoke. Scornia's hands were shaking. She didn't realize it until Walter gently took them in his. I'm sorry, he said. I thought we'd have more time before. You defended me. Of course I defended you. To your own people, they'll hate you now. Some of them already did. He squeezed her hands. I can live with being hated. Can't live with myself if I don't do what's right. That night, Scornia couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the confrontation, kept seeing the hate in Davis's eyes. She knew that look. She'd worn that look herself, staring at human prisoners during the war. When had she become the thing she used to hate? The baby kicked, hard, like a reminder. Scornia put her hand on her belly and whispered, Your mother is a coward. She ran from battle, got abandoned, got saved by an enemy. Another kick. But she's trying. For you. Everything is for you now. Outside, Walter sat on the porch, watching stars. She could see him through the barn window, alone, tired, carrying the weight of a choice that cost him everything. In the morning, she'd thank him properly, find the words. For now, she just watched, and wondered how the war created enemies so cruel and friends so kind at the same time. The baby came on a Tuesday, 3 weeks early, hard and fast and absolutely determined to arrive at the worst possible time. Scornia woke at dawn with pain that felt like being split in half by a dull axe. She tried to breathe through it, failed, made a sound that was half growl, half scream. Walter came running. Is it? The baby. Now. He went pale. I'll get Nell. No time. I don't know how to. Neither do I. Another contraction hit. Scornia gripped the bed frame hard enough to crack the wood. But she's coming whether we're ready or not. The next 6 hours were pain and chaos and terror. Walter did everything wrong and somehow everything right. He boiled water, brought clean cloth, held Scornia's hand when she needed something to squeeze. She probably broke 2 of his fingers. He didn't faint when the blood came. Didn't run when she screamed words in Orcish that would make warriors blush. I can't do this, Scornia gasped between contractions. You are doing this. I'm dying. You're not dying. You're giving life. Different thing. Same thing. Really not. Despite the pain, she almost laughed. Even now, he argued with her. The sun was high when the baby finally crowned. Scornia pushed with everything she had, all the strength she'd built over 27 years of training, fighting, surviving. One last push, and then crying. A baby's cry, strong, angry, alive. Walter caught her, actually caught her. This human man who'd never delivered a baby in his life held this tiny orc infant in his shaking hands and cried. She's perfect, he whispered. Scornia, she's perfect. He cleaned the baby, gentle, careful, like she was made of spider silk, wrapped her in clean cloth, placed her on Scornia's chest. Scornia looked down at her daughter. Green skin, tiny tusks already visible, black hair plastered to her head, eyes scrunched shut against the world, fists clenched and ready to fight. Hello, little one, Scornia whispered. I'm your mother. And we survived. The baby opened her eyes. They were amber gold, exactly like Bulgoth's eyes. For a moment, Scornia's breath caught. The betrayal, the abandonment, the cold, it all came rushing back. Then the baby made a small, grumpy sound, and the moment passed. You're not your father, Scornia told her. You're you, and you're mine. Walter sat on the edge of the bed, exhausted and awestruck. What will you name her? Scornia thought about it. In Orc tradition, babies weren't named until their 7th day. But this baby had fought to be born early, fought to survive, fought for every breath. Ember, she said. Her name is Ember. Why Ember? Because embers look dead but aren't. They hide heat inside. They survive when everything else is ash. She stroked her daughter's head. And they start fires. Walter smiled. Fitting. They sat together, orc mother, human helper, and a baby who shouldn't exist. The war still raged outside. The village still hated. The world was still broken. But in that barn, with late afternoon sun streaming through the cracks, there was peace. Small peace, fragile peace, but peace nonetheless. 3 days later, someone knocked on the barn door. 3 times. Hard. Walter and Skornia both froze. It was midnight. Nobody knocked at midnight with good intentions. Walter reached for the pitchfork leaning against the wall. Skornia grabbed the small knife she kept under the bed. Ember, miraculously, kept sleeping in her cradle. The knock came again. Walter opened the door. One orc stood in the moonlight. Massive, nearly 7 feet tall, built like a siege weapon. Scars covered his arms. A war axe hung from his belt. Skornia recognized him immediately. "Bolgoth," she whispered. Her husband, the one who abandoned her, smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Hello, wife," Bolgoth said. "Miss me?" Walter stepped between them and Skornia. "You need to leave." Bolgoth's eyes moved to Walter, dismissed him, looked past him to Skornia. "You're alive. Surprising. No thanks to you. And you had the baby. Even more surprising." He craned his neck, trying to see around Walter. "Where is she? Why do you care?" "She's my daughter. You left us to die." "I had reasons." "What reasons?" Skornia's voice cracked. She hated how it cracked. "What possible reason justifies leaving your pregnant wife in a blizzard?" Bolgoth was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that made everything worse. "Because she's not mine." The words hung in the air like poison. Skornia felt the floor tilt. "What?" "The baby. She's not mine." Bolgoth's face was stone. "Hargan told me he saw you 3 months before we knew you were pregnant. Saw you with Takar Bloodseeker at the winter gathering. Nothing happened with Takar. He said he saw you laugh, saw you touch his arm, saw him look at you the way I used to. So you condemn me to death? Based on a look? Based on doubt?" Bolgoth's voice was cold. "I can't raise another orc's child. It's dishonor. Because talking wouldn't change what Hargan told me." Bolgoth's hand went to his axe. "You betrayed me." "I never touched Takar!" Skornia's scream woke the baby. Ember started crying, loud, angry, alive. "I laughed at a joke. I touched his arm in greeting. That's all. You expect me to believe—" "I don't care what you believe." Skornia pushed past Walter, stood face to face with the orc who'd broken her. "You want to know the truth? I'll give you truth. I never betrayed you. Not once in 8 years. But you betrayed me the moment you decided I was disposable. The moment you cared more about your honor than my life. The clan would have understood. We could have proven the baby was yours. But you chose pride over family." Tears streamed down her face now. She didn't care. "And you know what? It doesn't matter anymore, because Ember is yours. She has your eyes, your tusks, your stubbornness." Bolgoth's face flickered. Doubt, hope, fear. "But she'll never know you," Skornia continued. "Because you're not her father. Fathers protect. Fathers stay. Fathers carve cradles and mean it." She pointed at Walter. "This human, this enemy, is more her father than you'll ever be." The words hit Bolgoth like physical blows. He actually stumbled back. Walter spoke quietly. "You need to leave now. This isn't your business, human. It became my business when I found your wife dying in the snow. It became my business when I delivered your daughter. It became my business when I chose to be human instead of a coward." Walter's voice was calm steel. "Now leave." Finally, Bolgoth nodded. "I'll go, but know this." He looked at Skornia. "If that baby is mine, she deserves to grow up with her people, with clan, not hiding in a human barn. She deserves to grow up loved. That's all that matters." Bolgoth turned to leave. Stopped. Without looking back, he said, "I'm sorry." 2 words. Too small. Too late. But he said them. Then he disappeared into the darkness. Skornia collapsed. Not from weakness. From relief. From exhaustion. From the weight of 8 years of love burning down in 15 minutes. Walter caught her. Held her while she cried. Didn't say it would be okay. Because it wouldn't. Just held her. Ember kept crying. The sound of it, angry, demanding, alive, was the most beautiful thing in the world. "I need to feed her," Skornia managed. "I know. Will you stay?" "I'm not going anywhere." She believed him. For the first time in months, she believed someone. Winter turned to spring. Snow melted. Green things pushed through dead earth, stubborn and determined. Ember grew. Not quickly. Babies never grew quickly enough for their mothers, but steadily. She had Bolgoth's eyes and Skornia's spirit, and an absolute refusal to sleep when other people wanted to sleep. Walter built a proper crib. Better than the cradle. Sturdier. He carved protection symbols into the wood. Not orcish, not human, but something in between. Nell visited weekly. Taught Scornia human lullabies. Taught Walter how to change wrappings without getting peed on. He failed repeatedly. Brought food that was slowly bringing color back to Scornia's face. Abbott came too. Brought books. Told stories. One day, he baptized Ember. Not because Scornia asked, but because he said, "Every baby deserves blessings, regardless of who gives them." The village remained split. Some people, like Davis, refused to accept an orc in their midst. Others, slowly, started coming around. A farmer named Roger left a basket of vegetables on the porch. Didn't stay, didn't talk, just left the basket and walked away. A widow named Ruth brought baby clothes her grandchildren had outgrown. "Greenskin or pink," she said. "Babies need clothes." Small mercies. Tiny bridges built by people brave enough to try. Scornia healed. Not completely. Healing from betrayal never came completely. But enough. Enough to laugh again. Enough to trust again. Enough to feel safe. One evening, with Ember asleep and the fire crackling, Scornia asked Walter a question she'd been carrying for weeks. "Why did you really save me?" He was quiet for a long time. "I told you. I didn't want another nightmare. That's not all of it." "No." He stared into the fire. "Truth? I saved you because I needed to save something. 3 years of losing. 3 years of everything turning to ash. I needed to prove that good things could still happen. That I could still be the person Sarah loved instead of the angry ghost I'd become. Did it work? Some days." He smiled slightly. "Some days I wake up and see Ember trying to grab her own toes, and I think, yeah, this is why. This small, stubborn, impossible life is why. She's not your daughter." "No, but I'm the one who caught her when she was born. I'm the one who wakes up when she cries. I'm the one teaching her that the world can be gentle." He met Scornia's eyes. "Blood doesn't make family. Choice does." Scornia felt something shift in her chest. Not love, not yet, maybe never, but something close, something warm. "Bulgoth carved a cradle. You built a crib, both trying to be fathers in the only way you knew how." She touched his hand. "But only one of you stayed. Is that enough?" "It's everything." They sat in comfortable silence. Ember made small sleeping sounds. Outside, the world kept turning. Still broken, still healing, still trying. "I can't stay here forever," Scornia said eventually. "The village won't allow it. I know, but I don't know where to go. Then we figure it out. Together." "Together?" Walter smiled. "You're stuck with me now. You and Ember both. Can't get rid of me even if you wanted to." "What if I wanted to?" "Do you?" She thought about it. Really thought. About warm barns and terrible singing. About a man who apologized to cows and delivered babies and chose mercy when hate was easier. "No," she said quietly. "I don't want to." "Good, because I've gotten attached to you both." He poked the fire. "Besides, someone needs to teach Ember how to fight properly. Can't have her growing up soft. You'll teach her human things. And you'll teach her orc things. She'll be the best of both, or the worst of both. Either way, she'll be interesting." Scornia laughed. "You're insufferable." "You've mentioned." Ember woke up crying. Scornia lifted her, held her close. The baby quieted immediately, recognizing her mother's heartbeat. Walter watched them with an expression Scornia was starting to recognize. Not quite longing, not quite grief. Something healing. "Tell me about Sarah and Emma," Scornia said softly. "Not how they died, how they lived." So he did. He talked about Sarah's terrible cooking and beautiful singing, about Emma's obsession with butterflies, about the time Emma convinced him to plant flowers in the vegetable garden because food is boring and flowers are pretty. He cried while he talked. Scornia let him. Held Ember with one hand, held Walter's hand with the other. "They'd like you," Walter said eventually. "Sarah would have lectured me for being stupid enough to nearly freeze saving someone. Then she would have insisted you stay for dinner. Emma would have wanted to know if orc babies like butterflies. What would you have told her? That all babies like butterflies, and that some differences aren't differences at all." Outside, spring rain started falling. Gentle, cleansing, the kind of rain that made things grow. Inside, 3 survivors sat by firelight, orc, human, and the baby who'd already survived more than she should have. "We're going to be okay," Scornia whispered. Not a question, a decision. Walter squeezed her hand. "Yeah, we are." And for the first time since Bolgoth walked away, Skornia believed in possibilities instead of endings. 6 months passed. Ember learned to roll over, then learned to scoot backward, which terrified everyone because babies should not be able to escape that quickly. She babbled constantly. Sounds that might have been orcish, might have been gibberish, definitely were cute. The village slowly accepted them. Not everyone. Not easily. But enough. Walter and Skornia worked the farm together. She was stronger than any farmhand he could have hired. He was better with the animals. They balanced. Nell became Ember's unofficial grandmother. Abbott became her unofficial grandfather. A small family built from spare parts and good intentions. Then, on a Tuesday morning in late summer, someone else knocked on the door. Not angry knocking, uncertain knocking. Walter opened it. Hargun stood there, alone. No weapons. Hands visible. "I'm not here to fight," he said immediately. "I'm here to talk." Skornia appeared behind Walter, Ember on her hip. "What do you want?" "To apologize. And to tell you the truth. Bolgoth lied." Hargun met her eyes, direct, no flinching. "There was no Takar Bloodseeker. You never betrayed him. I made it up." Silence. Then Skornia's voice, dangerously quiet. "What?" "I lied. Told Bolgoth I saw you with another orc because—" He took a breath. "Because he was becoming weak, caring more about you than the clan, talking about leaving the warband, settling somewhere, raising a family properly. I thought if I planted doubt, he'd remember his duty. So you destroyed my marriage, got me left to die, made me think I was—" Skornia couldn't finish. The rage was too big for words. I know what I did." Hargun's voice cracked. "I've been carrying it for 8 months. Watching Bolgoth drink himself sick with guilt. Watching the clan fall apart because our best warrior can't lead anymore." He looked at Ember. "Watching that baby grow up without her father because I was a coward. Why tell me now? Because Bolgoth is dying. Not physically, but inside. The guilt is eating him. He wants to come back, wants to meet his daughter, wants to make amends." Hargun's hands shook. "But he won't come unless you allow it. Won't dishonor you further by appearing uninvited." Skornia looked at Ember, at Walter, at the life they'd built from ashes. "He doesn't deserve to meet her." "No, he doesn't. He left us to die. Yes, because of your lie. Yes." Walter spoke quietly. "What do you want to do?" Skornia was quiet for a long time. Ember grabbed her finger, babbled something that might have been ma or might have been hunger. Finally, Skornia said, "Tell Bolgoth he can come. Once. Just to meet her. But he doesn't get to stay. He doesn't get to be her father." "He gave up that right in the snow." Hargun nodded. "I understand. And Hargun?" "Yes. If I ever see you again, I'll kill you. Not quickly, not mercifully. You'll have time to regret every word of the lie you told." "I already do." "Good." He left. 3 days later, Bolgoth came. He looked different, thinner, older, broken in ways that went deeper than scars. Skornia met him outside, held Ember. "Let him see, but not touch." "Her name is Ember," Skornia said. "She has your eyes, your tusks, your blood." She paused. "But she's not yours. She's mine, and Walter's, and the village's. She belongs to everyone who stayed." Bolgoth stared at his daughter. Tears ran down his face, something Skornia had never seen in 8 years of marriage. "She's beautiful. She's alive, despite you. I know. I know what I did." He met Skornia's eyes. "I believed the lie because I wanted to. Because being a warrior was easier than being a husband. Because the war gave me purpose and you asked me to choose something harder. And now I've lost everything that mattered. The clan doesn't trust me. My war brother betrayed me. My family is gone." He smiled bitterly. "Turns out honor isn't worth much when you're alone." Ember reached toward him, curious, not understanding hate or betrayal or abandonment, just seeing another orc face and wanting to touch. Bolgoth's hand moved involuntarily toward her. Stopped. Looked at Skornia for permission. She didn't give it. "You carved her cradle," Skornia said. "That's the only gentle thing you ever made. She sleeps in it sometimes when she's fussy. When she touches the wood, I tell her that someone loved her enough to carve blessings into her first bed. Thank you. I don't do it for you. I do it so she knows that people can be gentle even when they're cruel. That tusks meant for war can create beautiful things. That love is complicated. Will you tell her I'm her father?" I'll tell her blood came from you, but fatherhood? That's earned. Walter earned it. You didn't. The words were cruel. They were also true. Bulgoth absorbed them, nodded, took one last look at Ember. She deserves better than me. She has better than you. Good. He turned to leave, stopped. Scornia? What? I'm glad you survived. I'm glad she survived. His voice broke. And I'm sorry. For everything. So am I. He walked away. This time Scornia didn't watch. She turned back to the barn, where Walter was feeding chickens and humming off key and being exactly the kind of father Ember deserved. Is it done? Walter asked. It's done. How do you feel? Free. She kissed Ember's head. Finally free. Years passed. Ember grew strong and stubborn and kind. She learned to fight from her mother, learned to farm from Walter, learned to bake from Nell, learned to read from Abbott. She grew up in a barn that became a home, in a village that learned to see green skin as just skin, among people who chose love over hate, even when hate was easier. On Ember's 5th birthday, Scornia found Walter building something in the barn. What's that? A new cradle? He didn't look up from his work. Nell's daughter is pregnant. I thought, the cradle Bulgoth made survived. Ember survived. Maybe it has good luck in it. Scornia touched the old cradle. The Orcish blessings were still visible, worn but present. You're giving them Bulgoth's cradle? I'm giving them a cradle that held a miracle. Doesn't matter who carved it. Matters what it held. She smiled, kissed his forehead. You're a good man, Walter Greystone. I'm trying. He finally looked up. Think it's enough? It's everything. Outside, Ember played with the village children. 3 humans, 1 half-elf, all laughing and shouting and forgetting to care about what made them different. Scornia watched her daughter run, watched her fall, watched her get up and run again. Some betrayals break you, some save you. Bulgoth's betrayal gave her Ember. Walter's salvation gave her family. Hargon's confession gave her truth. All of it, the good and the bad, the cruel and the kind, led to this moment, to a green-skinned girl laughing with pink-skinned friends, to a world slowly learning that different didn't mean enemy, to a future that hadn't existed 8 years ago. I'm glad you found me in the snow, Scornia said quietly. Walter smiled. I'm glad I didn't walk away. Would you really have? No, but I like to pretend I had a choice. He went back to his carving. It made me feel noble. She laughed. Even now, even after years, he could make her laugh. That evening, with Ember asleep and stars bright overhead, Scornia spoke the words she'd been carrying for 5 years. I love you. Walter froze mid-carving. Looked at her. Really looked. You don't have to say that because... I'm not saying it because of anything. I'm saying it because it's true. You saved my life. You delivered my daughter. You chose us when the world said not to. You apologized to cows. She touched his face. How could I not love you? I'm not Bulgoth. Thank God for that. He laughed, then cried, then kissed her. Gentle, careful, like she was something precious. I love you too, he whispered. You and Ember both. My impossible family. We're not impossible. We're just improbable. That's not better. It's perfect. And it was. Not perfectly perfect. They still fought, still struggled, still carried scars that ached when the weather changed. But they chose each other. Every day. That was enough. Some families are born. Some are made. Some are carved from betrayal and built on mercy. Theirs was all 3. And Ember, stubborn, fierce, gentle Ember, would grow up knowing the most important truth. Blood makes you orc, but love makes you family. The world didn't need perfect heroes. It needed broken people willing to fix each other. That was the story Scornia would tell her daughter. Not about the blizzard or the abandonment or the war. About the barn, the human, the choice. About the moment hate became love and enemies became home. If this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear that betrayal isn't the end. That love can grow in impossible places. That families come in forms we never expect. Hit that subscribe button and join our Orcbound Tales channel and our community of storytellers who believe in second chances, unlikely heroes, and the power of choosing mercy over hate. Remember, in the end, the bravest warriors aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who choose love despite it.